Positive statements is objective and fact-based, while normative statements is subjective and value-based. Positive statements do not have to be correct, but they must be able to be tested and proved or disproved. Normative statements are opinion-based, so they cannot be proved or disproved. Necessity, luxury, and inferior goods are three different types of goods in economics. For the first part of this video, we will be going over necessity goods. So, what are necessity goods? Necessity goods are basically a type of good that consumers cannot live without. Secondly, necessity goods also do not take into account the law of demand. In microeconomics, the law of demand states that when all other factors being equal, as the price of a good and services increases, consumers' demand for the good will decrease, and vice versa. This explanation is shown in graph 1, where the increase in price from $6 to $12 led to quantity demanded decreasing to 22 from 38, thus proving how the law of demand is accurate. But for a necessity good, it does not follow the law of demand. Instead, it follows the demand inelastic curve. For example, in this graph, the increase in price from P1 to P2 only had a small reduction of demand from Q1 to Q2, thus showing a rather inelastic change and proving how necessity good does not take into account the law of demand. After this explanation, A is the suitable answer for question 1, as Joanne's statement fits into two explanations of necessity goods, as the increase in price will not stop her consumption for cigarettes, or only to a minimal amount, as it is a product she cannot live without. Luxury good was another option given in question 1, however, it wasn't the right answer. B was the wrong answer, as a luxury good is a product that is not necessary, however, it tends to make life more pleasant for the consumer. Furthermore, consumer expenditure on luxury goods are highly tied to their income levels. Hence, an increase in the prices of goods will lead to a decrease in demand. As shown in this graph, where the increase in price to P2 from P3 led to a large decrease in demand from Q3 to Q1, therefore representing a highly elastic change in demand. Therefore, this proves how B was not the right answer, as the large reduction in demand from Q3 to Q1 due to the price increase did not fit into Joanne's quote, as Joanne's demand for cigarettes did not decrease even with the price increase. Inferior goods in economics is a good where quantity demanded decreases when there's an increase in consumers' incomes. Therefore, cigarettes are not an inferior good, as the demand for it was not influenced by the price and her income levels. Therefore, question 1 is a positive statement, as the explanation for it was objective and fact-based and was not based on opinions.
For question 2, the answer is graph D. To look at this question, we need an understanding of how the tax affects both parties, the buyers and the sellers. For cigarette buyers, the increase in price will increase their costs. However, referring to Yelson's quote, there is an extent to which we paid for more cigarettes. Hence, cigarettes are not perfectly inelastic, and the demand curve is not vertical. At this current time, standard cigarette price is $25 to $30, and with the tax excise after 4 years, the price per pack will be at $40. If, for example, Yelson buys 6 packs per week, and a result of the exercise, she buys 5, her costs will still be larger. Before the tax, she paid $150 a week on 6 packs of cigarettes. Now she's paying $200 a week on 5 packs of cigarettes, which is a 33% increase in cost whilst also receiving less cigarettes, which is a very large burden to bear. However, for the sellers of tobacco, no tax is paid directly to them, as the increased price is paid on top of their selling price. Therefore, they make the same amount of profit on each pack. However, the increased price will decrease the demand for their product, which will see a decrease in revenue for the producers as they are selling less tobacco and are still making the same profit margin on each pack. Using this situation before, dropping 6 packs a week instead of 5, since the majority represent Yelson's view, sellers will see a 16.6 drop in sales. This situation is hypothetical, but it addresses the relationship of the tax burden to the seller and the buyer of tobacco products. Graph A is wrong, as the demand for cigarettes is not perfectly inelastic. Graph B is wrong, as the burden is not equally shared between the sellers and the producers. Graph C is wrong, as the larger burden is not on the sellers, but graph D is correct, as the green area represents a larger 33% burden on the buyer, and the red area represents a smaller 16% burden on the seller. The demand curve also shows the relative inelastic nature of demand for tobacco due to its steep gradient. Hence, the answer is graph D and is a positive statement.
Deadweight loss is a reduction in economic efficiency that occurs when the market equilibrium for a good or a service is not achieved or achievable. If consumers are more sensitive to the tobacco excise, the demand for tobacco will decrease as reflected from the law of demand, stating that an increase in price will decrease demand. Hence, the consumer demand for the tobacco will move further away from the equilibrium.
Therefore, the answer is false because less will be demanded and supplied, which will be mentioned later, at a higher price point, meaning that there will be a gap within the economy, creating an allocative inefficiency and a larger deadweight loss.
For example, in this hypothetical graph, supply and demand, at price point P1, the tobacco costs $20, and quantity demanded and supplied is at the market equilibrium of 10 million cigarettes, meaning that the market is operating efficiently as the supply is meeting demand at supply equilibrium and demand equilibrium. However, the implementation of tobacco excise of $5 will mean that the consumers are forced to pay a higher price per packet at P3 $25. Therefore, less will be demanded as stated from the law of demand. This then moves the quantity demanded along the line from Q1 to Q2 at 8 million quantity demanded. As seen on the graph, the producers are only willing to supply 8 million packets of cigarettes at $25. This has occurred as supplying 10 million packets of cigarettes at $25 is inefficient for the producers, as it would not be supplying the quantity demanded at the original market equilibrium point, demand equilibrium and supply equilibrium, where it is deemed to be at optimal efficiency. This then leaves a gap between supply and demand, which is the deadweight loss, the B yellow triangle, that shows how the tobacco market can be producing at a lower price and gain more consumer demand, but the tobacco excise prevents this from happening in the short to medium term and making it more inefficient. Thus, if the consumers are more sensitive to the price, it will increase the deadweight loss in the market. False.
It is a positive statement because if the demand for tobacco was elastic or sensitive, the deadweight loss must correlate and become larger. Thus, the answer to question 3 has only one outcome, meaning it will be an objective answer.
It is highly disagreed that the taxpayers' money on campaigns to deter smokers is a waste, but is seen more efficient for the economy than just injecting money into curing smokers with lung cancer. The private costs of individuals include the actual cost of purchasing the cigarettes and the time lost in the workforce from being hospitalized, thus less income. However, the social cost associated with smokers significantly outweighs the private cost. The social cost can be the medical fees the government spends and lack of labor force, thus slower economic growth. The government since 2010 has raised over $47 billion from cigarette taxation, so it is reasonable that the government reinvests it back to prevent the smokers from cancer.
The campaign being efficient can be seen from the medical expenditure of $31 billion in 2015, yet the campaign expenditure only went up to $170 million in 2015. The campaign since 2010 has successfully reduced smokers by 20%, meaning how the campaign is significantly more efficient for the economy, as seen from the $30 billion difference in cost. The treatments have not reduced smokers, but has allowed them to smoke again after being treated. Therefore, in the long term, the government through campaigns will be able to significantly reduce the amount of smokers, which means lower health expenditure, so the government will be able to successfully reallocate its resources to other areas, such as reducing unemployment or increasing economic growth. Thus, the tax money is not going to waste through campaigns.
It can also be agreed that taxpayers' money is going to misuse, as it can be allocated to other sectors within the economy to gain a short to medium-term benefit. Instead of wasting the money on campaigns, the money can be injected into reducing unemployment rate of 5.9% or reducing net foreign debt, which is $1 trillion, thus reducing our current account deficit. However, in the long run, the campaign will be more beneficial for the economy.
This question is a normative statement as our answer is formed off our own opinion.